friends. So some of you have asked, how do you keep your faith in college? And so I figured we'd do a video about it. I went to 3 different colleges during my undergrad years. I did 2 years at a community college while I was commuting from home and in high school for part of the time, because I was homeschooled and I was an overachiever. So what do you do when you're homeschooled and an overachiever but go to college early? My second college was a Christian college, actually, which I was at for 2 more years. And then I did a semester abroad, and I studied abroad at a state school in Australia. I just want to share some things that I learned about keeping your faith in college, and then the story of how God met me in a bar. So I think the number one most important thing is to have a community. I've been thinking a lot about Psalm 23 lately and how it talks about us being the sheep and God being our shepherd. And I've been thinking about sheep and just how vulnerable sheep are. Like, not only are they kind of dumb from what I've heard and they go the wrong way all the time, but they also don't have claws or teeth to bite something or chase something. They're kind of vulnerable. And I was thinking about, what are the sheep's greatest strengths? Well, there's the shepherd, and then there's also the flock, so that the sheep is not on its own. Because if the sheep is by itself, it's so vulnerable. But if it's surrounded by tons of other sheep, there's a lot of safety in that. And so I think that's really important to remember when you go into college. The most important thing is to find a community of Christians, whether that's a group on campus, a local church, both of the above. Find people, get connected with people who are going to encourage you in your faith. And so for me, when I got to study abroad in Australia, my very first Sunday there, I was like, I don't care how tired I am with jet lag because I got here 2 days ago, I am finding a church today. And go figure, the first church I tried I loved, which doesn't always happen, but it was such a lifesaver for me just to know every Sunday, no matter what I've been up to or how late I've been up the night before, I'm going to church on Sunday. And finding friends in that church who I hung out with during the week too, and started to build a sense of community with, that was huge for me. So number 2 kind of goes along with the first one, but it's choose your friends wisely, because you become like your friends. And this also goes for the people that you're dating. Be careful. Even people who are Christians doesn't mean that they're going to be a good influence on you. Look at their lives, look at how they live, their priorities, the kind of people that they are, and ask yourself, do I like the person that I'm becoming when I'm with these friends? Am I being tempted toward gossip or toward things that I don't want to be a part of? Or am I becoming more of somebody who loves God and loves other people well? So pay attention to that and choose your friends wisely, because they're going to be a huge influence in the person you become. The third thing I would say is develop a really good reputation. So in the book of Proverbs, it says that a good name or a good reputation is more desirable than tons of riches and wealth. The reputation that you build for yourself impacts the kind of things people expect from you. And so I noticed this play out a lot when I was at the community college and working in a restaurant during that time. I was a waitress and hostess, and I loved working in a restaurant. It was so fun. But I remember people often saying things like, oh, you can't say that in front of Tiffany, she has virgin ears, or stuff like that. And sometimes it would get a little bit annoying, or they'd be a little bit jabs about it. But for the most part, I didn't mind, because that was the reputation I had built for myself, somebody who wanted to love people well and love God. People would still ask you to do dumb stuff guys trying to make a move on you, or being invited to do things that I didn't really want to do. So you still get that, but there's less pressure because they already know your reputation. I just think there's safety in that. The fourth thing I would say is don't be afraid of the questions. I think sometimes we go away to college and we have we start to feel we're doubting our faith. Well, what about this? I've never heard this perspective before. It's kind of rocking my world right now. And especially if you grew up in a Christian home and went to a Christian school or were homeschooled I was, there's all of a sudden this whole world out there, and you're all these perspectives that maybe you weren't exposed to before. And so don't be afraid of those questions. If God is really God, he's big enough for any question we have. There is no question that throws them for a loop, oh shoot, I hadn't thought of that one. Let me and Jesus get back to you on that, God is, if he's really God, then he can handle any question we bring to him. So don't be afraid of the questions, ask them, because they will actually make your faith stronger. At least that's what I found in my life. But don't just ask them by yourself. Again, ask them in community. Search out the answer, really search for it. Talk with adults you trust, read books on it, look for YouTube videos. And in so doing, I think that does bring us closer to God, and it makes our faith stronger in the long run, even though it can feel kind of uncomfortable in the moment. And the last thing I'll say is just be careful of the little things. I think that losing your faith in college doesn't usually come as a big sudden flip of the a switch, I think it's usually a buildup of little things. It's kind of like boiling a frog alive. So they say when you boil a frog, like it's just a little warm at first. Frog doesn't even know what's going on, and then as it gets warmer and warmer, the frog is too paralyzed to jump out by the time it's like at a deadly level of warmth, which is so like morbid and weird. But I think it can be like that for us too with our faith. Like it starts off small, like little things that we don't really think too much of. And so the best way to fight that is to keep coming to God and spending time with Him regularly, to really make that your priority, and to ask Him to search out your heart, and to have people that you're in community with who are gonna call you out on things that they see in you that you might not see in yourself yet. So I would say just be aware of the little things, spend time with God so He can be at work in your heart, and you'll be okay. It's gonna be okay. I think we can feel a lot of fear because it's easy to forget who the one is who's keeping us. From Jude 24 and 25, now to Him that is able to keep you from falling and to present you faultless before the presence of His glory with exceeding joy. He's the one who's keeping us. And another is Philippians 1:6 that says we can be confident of this, that He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Jesus Christ. When I studied abroad in Australia, I was very broken from a relationship I'd been in, and I was really longing to be the kind of girl who went to all the parties, had all the guys' attention, and dated all these different guys, and maybe competed in beauty pageants. And it was this idea I had in my head that that kind of lifestyle would finally make me feel loved and valued, and that I could kind of just immerse myself in that lifestyle to an unhealthy point. And so that's what I wanted when I went to Australia. And I remember like wanting that, but somewhere in the back of my head being like, God, I'm also scared of what will happen to me. Would you protect me even from myself and help me to see this lifestyle for what it really is? So the first few weeks in Australia, I'd never really been to parties. I'd never really been to clubs. And I remember just going several nights a week, dressing up and feeling beautiful and hanging out with some different guys. And one night, I was in this bar. I was sitting at the back because I'd had a little too much to drink, was a little dizzy, and they called up couples to dance. As the DJ is like, okay, as the couples dance, we're gonna do these challenges, and if you fail a challenge, you take an item of clothing off. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, as I'm watching this, I felt like the presence of God just like came over me as I was sitting there in that bar. I felt like He was like, Tiffany, you're paying to put yourself in a lifestyle that I died to free you from. Not that there's anything wrong with going to a party or dating different guys, like I said, but that I was trying to find acceptance and love in this lifestyle and immerse myself in this lifestyle that didn't really reflect God's glory or bring honor to Him, and that didn't really do anything worthwhile with my life that I've been given on this earth. And I've realized like here I was looking for love and looking for attention from guys, and God was like, I died so you don't have to look for love in those places. I died so you can know a love that's actually gonna heal you and free you and not objectify you. And I felt like in that moment, God met me in the bar, and I all of a sudden had no more desire for that lifestyle. Like it was gone. And it's not like I never went back to another bar, but it was like the desire to live that kind of life, to be with all these different guys, to be a party girl like I had envisioned in my head or in the movies. I realized it wasn't the kind of life that I really wanted. So I hope that this can encourage you girls, and comment below anything you would add to these tips. And I'll see you Friday for a video called To All the Girls Who Grew Up Christian. And it's really to all of you girls, but we're gonna talk about some struggles that are often faced by girls who grew up in Christian homes as they try to make their faith their own. So I'll see you on Friday for that, and I love you girls. Bye.